Evening. Shabbat Chanukah is one of the happiest Shabbatot of the year. And this is not only because we get to feast on latkes and indulge in sufganiyot for dessert. Rav Dessler points out in his famous Michtav Me'Eliyahu that all Jewish holidays work on the basis of repeating cycles of time, meaning that the arrival of each new festival brings with it the same spiritual energy which manifested itself at the time of the very first celebration of that holiday. Thus, for example, on Passover, the very calendar date of the holiday, the 15th of Nisan, predisposes us with the power to attain the same spiritual freedom that our ancestors felt 3,000 years ago at the time of the original Exodus. On each and every Shavuot, we reacquire the revelation of Hashem to his people, exactly as it occurred on Mount Sinai. On Sukkot, we re-experience living in the Sinai desert, as our ancestors did so many millennia ago. Now, this, of course, only works if the person properly prepares himself for these spiritual gifts. One should engage in studying the halachot and the agadot, the beautiful midrashim, the stories of the particular holiday, way in advance of it. Otherwise, the holiday will have zero effect. So, what about Chanukah? What special qualities can it potentially bequeath upon us? Chanukah, I believe, is the holiday of choosing the difficult path, of fighting back against all odds, even impossible odds, and to fight back secure in the knowledge that you will achieve, be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help, the ultimate victory. You see, it could have been very easy for the Jews of that Chanukah era to simply slip into a sweet sleep of the culture of the Hellenizers. After all, nobody was threatening them. Their lives were not in danger. And let's face it, immorality is fun. Paganism requires very few obligations upon its practitioners. Now look at Judaism. Shabbat is so limiting to our natural movements. Kashrut puts a cap on our natural appetites. Brit Milah is much more than just a mark on the foreskin, but actually implies moral restraint and ethical control of one's passions. And who wants that? Well, one man did. Mattathias. And along with his 5 sons, who later became known as the Maccabees, he was able to convince an entire nation that what the Hellenists were glibly proposing was wrong. It was dead wrong. And in fact, it was even worth giving up your very life for the holy values of Yiddishkeit. What started as a minor rebellion against Antiochus and his armies turned into a national revolution for freedom, ethical values, and self-determination. Each and every Chanukah, as it arrives, we renew that covenant through a most poignant ritual. You see, we are now in a season of the year which is emblematic of bright lights. They seem ubiquitous. You can't seem to avoid them. In most cities around the world, giant floodlights cast a garish glow on an otherwise moderately lit environment. Our little Hanukkah lights, how can they compete with entire city blocks flooded with artificial lighting? Indeed, in some circles, some of us try to compete with the rest of the world by using huge electric menorahs in the streets of the city. Now, I don't mean to denigrate the possible advantages of doing just that, not the least of which is to draw the attention of Jews who are not even aware of the existence of Hanukkah. But in my humble opinion, this is a mistake. It ultimately defeats the true meaning of Hanukkah. There is a mitzvah persume nisa, advertising the festival by lighting the menorah in public, outside. That is usually done by placing the menorah at the entrance of a house or at a window facing the street. But that refers to publicizing it amongst ourselves, our own people. For most of Jewish history, Jews lived in their own neighborhoods, and candles of Hanukkah were meant not for the outside world, but rather to give each other chizuk, or religious strength. In fact, if and when the candles would be noticed by hostile neighbors, the advice of the halacha was given to simply place the menorah inside, on a dining room table, to be appreciated by the family circle. The true inspiration of Hanukkah impresses upon us that it is those little features of Yiddishkeit which mean so much, which carry so much weight. The Shabbat table, the singing of the Zemirot, the Sabbath songs, the wearing of tzitzit under our garments, the placing of little coins in a pushka. Those little Hanukkah flames, which we gaze upon, are meant to remind us that despite the greater numbers of the dominant culture and the flashy lifestyles of our surroundings, it is the Yiddishkeit which is practiced in the home, away from the public glare, which has kept and continues to keep us spiritually alive and able to withstand any challenges to our faith that the world can throw at us. So let us celebrate our Yiddishkeit. Let us celebrate this wonderful, happy, festive Hanukkah with songs and praise to Hashem. She'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim hahem ubazman hazeh, who hath made miracles for our fathers in those days, and he continues to do so in our days as well. Happy Hanukkah and Shabbat Shalom.